Good morning, everybody. Happy holiday week. Happy Monday. I hope you had a peaceful weekend and you got your the very last presents for your loved ones and perhaps for you. Please don't forget ever presents for yourself as well. And I hope you had a peaceful weekend and you started your day on a peaceful note. And so this is our AM actual news. And in today's session, just a quick rundown. We'll talk about Biden commuting federal death row sentences, which was just announced this morning at 5 a.m., to nearly all those on death row. Congress passed a Social Security Fairness Act. Administration takes action on China's semiconductor practices. Starbucks workers expanding strike now to four more cities. Trump at America Fast, and I have clips. And honestly, it's like a comedy show. It's like a sad, scary comedy show. New nominees announced by Trump as well. Top Democrat accuses Republicans of protecting Musk's China investments, plus updates on Ukraine, Russia, Georgia, the country, Syria, and South Korea. So we have a full blown live stream and broadcast this morning. So I hope you have your coffee or tea or snack or whatever, because it's going to be a doozy and we're going to get through it. And I have clips and it's going to be entertaining as well. So let me say hi first. Um, Good morning, Bonnie. Good morning. Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, Rosie Marie. Good morning. Hope you had a safe and peaceful weekend. That's what counts the most. As to some things before we wait on others to join, um, some things to announce. Our newsletter will be moving to our website. Everything is already figured out. The only thing that I'm trying to figure out how to transfer your subscriptions, which most likely, since nobody here at Honest, nobody ever saves your payment data or anything aside from your email. So from now on, everything is safe. It's on the website. All I need is your email address. And if you're a subscriber to the newsletter, you can subscribe for free. You get your Monday, Wednesday, Friday newsletter. And those who subscribe for the $5 a month get them five times a week. So you will be prompted. You'll get an email saying, please tap here and fill out your data, whatever, for us to continue your subscription. Those who subscribe for a year, you're good to go. You're not going to be prompted to do anything until a year from now. And so everything is transferred, everything is safe. Why? I love Substack. I really do. And it's very convenient. But two things that are of most importance to me. One is protection of your emails. I don't want to have anybody have access to your emails, to your data, to your comments, to your likes, shares, and whatnot. And given that Substack is partnering with a company that is 100% sponsored by Peter Thiel, that becomes a question, right? And secondly, most importantly, on the news delivery side, is I want to report actual news. I don't want to be silenced. I don't want to be hidden from nowhere. So, now we're on the website, everything is fine. And then the all the live streams and the newsletters and everything is on the site. It's accessible on your mobile phone, on the website. I will send you an email explaining everything, and I will do my best to explain here throughout the week. And once the app is ready, everything is on the app, so you can download and have it's on your phone directly with notifications. But everything is good to go, which is good news. Very busy weekend on that regard. So let's start now. Something that just premiered or was just announced. I hate the word breaking news, but this is sort of breaking in terms of a news cycle. The House Ethics Committee found evidence that Matt Gaetz paid tens of thousands of dollars to women for sex and drugs, and on at least 20 occasions, including paying a 17-year-old girl for sex in 2017, according to a final draft of the panel's report obtained by CNN. This was just announced on CNN. The committee concluded in its bombshell document that Gaetz violated Florida state laws, including the state's statutory rape law. So, over the weekend, he was at this America First Fast with Trump, and he was saying that he probably will run for the seat of Marco Rubio and, all that kind of stuff. because Laura Trump has withdrawn her candidacy to become, senator. Well, and then Trump sort of accused DeSantis for failing to nominate her. I guess DeSantis didn't want to nominate her. Whatever the case is, but neither Gates nor Laura Trump will be there, which is at this point good news. Now, other news that I was just talking about, President Biden this morning announced that he's commuting 37 individuals affected that were to serve that will now serve life imprisonment without parole. So has commuted their death row sentence pretty much. And so President-elect Trump, though, immediately has promised to resume federal executions. I guess it's good for those 37 out of 40. President Biden wrote a lengthy letter. I will put it in your newsletter tonight, where he explains why he did that. He said, yes, we are mourning and crying and praying with the victims and their families, and for the victims and their families. But he never wanted to advocate for death row sentence. He thinks that there should be a better way to treat the issue. And so he has commuted 37 individuals out of 40. Now, as reports spread about the drones, something that had leaked this morning is that President Biden has called Pentagon 4 times over the weekend, per Wall Street Journal and their reports, asking what the heck is with the drones in the skies above New Jersey. And so, again, no news on that regard. This multi-agency briefing still tell us that we're delusional. I have seen drones as recent as last night, where it's a huge thing hanging over, it's very loud, and it's not moving, and it's not a plane. So let's see if we will get any briefings today. And by the way, what we get, I'll put them in the newsletter tonight and also in your podcast. So if you're not subscribed to the actual news podcast on any podcast platform, I truly invite you to do so, because it's very useful. You can take me on the road whenever you're commuting from work to work. You can listen to the latest news. This will premiere at 5 p.m. Eastern daily, so we're not skipping any days. As to the holidays, I will probably be live and for the AM Actual News tomorrow morning. As to whether we get enough news to go live on Wednesday morning on the 25th on Christmas Day, I doubt it. If so, then I will inform you, but I'm not counting that we're going to get a heavy news cycle, nor I want to bother you on your Christmas Day, right? Where you want to open presents and be sort of in a very, holiday mode. Deservingly so. So AM Actual News happening tomorrow, as well as the newsletter, as well as the podcast. On Christmas Day, we'll see how many news we get, and then we continue per usual. All right? So also, the Biden-Harris administration is taking decisive steps to protect American workers and businesses from China's unfair trade practices in the semiconductor sector, which threaten U.S. national security and economic stability. Semiconductors are crucial to various industries, including defense, automotive, medical devices, and infrastructure. China's non-market policies, industrial targeting, and unfair competition in the semiconductor market have created dangerous supply chain dependencies. And so the key actions include Section 301 investigation, which is the U.S. Trade Representative is investigating China's unfair practices in the semiconductor industry, focusing on its targeting on foundational chips. Then boosting domestic semiconductor manufacturing, where the Biden administration has allocated $2 billion through the CHIPS and Science Act to encourage domestic production. Then national security measures. New policies will restrict federal agencies from procuring semiconductors from Chinese manufacturers. Also enhancing supply chain resilience. The government has initiated a comprehensive strategy to address non-market practices and enhance supply chain resilience in line with the quadrennial supply chain review and global cooperation. Of course, it is important for U.S. to work together with international partners to address China's market distortions in the semiconductor industry. And so readout will be on your podcast and in your newsletter. right? So if you want to subscribe to newsletter right now at this moment, go ahead, honest.substack.com. Everything will migrate to the website anyway by end of the day. All right. So other good news, which you guys some commented, what about Social Security? Was Biden doing anything about it? That's the latest what I found. So the U.S. Congress has passed the Social Security Fairness Act early on Saturday of last week, which will boost retirement payments for retirees who also draw public pensions, such as former police officers and firefighters. The Senate approved the bill in a 76-20 vote, following a 327-75 vote in the House last month. The bill now awaits President Biden's signature, which is obviously coming. The legislation repeals two provisions that have reduced benefits for individuals receiving both public pensions and Social Security, impacting about 2.5 million people. Critics warn that the $196 billion cost of the bill over the next decade could further strain Social Security's finances, which are already under pressure. Well, this remains to be seen. And then we have this Musk and Ramaswamy coming in. So we'll see what pretty much will be. But at least this group of individuals is protected. Now, to some sad news, really disturbing news. In New York City, on Sunday morning, a woman was riding subway. She stepped into the F train. F train goes from Coney Island, if you think about Brighton Beach, right, the Russian sort of side, but not so much Russian. Everybody lives there at this point. And so she stepped in on Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. She was going on a train from Brooklyn, not specifically Brighton Beach, but from Brooklyn to Manhattan. And so at the Stillwell Avenue station, a guy got in, which turned out to be a migrant, a 33-year-old migrant from Guatemala. He came in and he set her on fire. And then he exited the train and sat on a bench looking how she burns to death. And unfortunately, the woman did, of course, pass. And, the investigation is pending. He has been detained. A bunch of pictures were posted last night, and he has been detected. So the incident adds to a concerning rise in the subway-related homicides in New York City. As of November 2024, there have been 9 reported homicides on the subway, compared to 5 during same period in 2023. Really shocking, really disturbing. Now, as to Starbucks, if you're trying now to get your coffee in New York or Los Angeles, Chicago, or Seattle, know that those cities are now added to the Starbucks workers' strike. And so workers at Starbucks have broadened their strike to include 4 additional U.S. cities. The union, representing over 10,000 baristas, announced on Saturday. The 5-day strike, which began on Friday, initially saw closures of Starbucks Cafe in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Seattle. Now the walkout has expanded to include locations in New Jersey, New York, Philadelphia, and St. Louis, according to a statement from Workers United. The union did not specify the exact city in New Jersey where the strike is taking place. The expanded strike highlights ongoing labor tensions between Starbucks and its employees as workers continue to push for improved wages, benefits, and workplace conditions. Now, from New York or whatever, let's go to Texas, where Governor Abbott is blasting all the billboards with those advertisements promising, check this out, promising any migrants to get raped. Those are photos. They're all in Spanish. It says, you come here, you're going to get raped. That's what we're going to orchestrate for you. Now, actually, I do have a proof. Yes, it's been reported too, right? See, Texas governor buys billboards warning migrants they'll be raped if they illegally cross the border. How much did you pay to have your daughter raped? Reads one of the signs, which will appear in Mexico and Central America. Also, to Trump's news, remember this bill that we were so worried that it's not going to pass and our government will shut down? Remember the $190 million for kids' cancer research that Musk pulled out, right, out of the bill? And then the Senate, by the way, voted for it independently. So that passed. That's all good. This is what Trump wanted to do with portion of that money. Trump wanted $90 million for inauguration while cutting $190 million from cancer research, kids' cancer research. Now, before we get into Trump and his feast fest, let's review a clip from Matt Damon. So Matt Damon was at a gathering. I'm not going to advertise the gathering, but he was at a gathering together with his mom, who is a teacher. And then there was a lady from a mega channel who confronted him saying that, like actors, they really want to get better because they want to make more money. For teachers, they're not getting better because they're not getting any money, right? They're not getting any additional money. So why do we need this many teachers? Check out what Matt Damon said.
In acting, there isn't job security, right? There's an incentive to work hard and be a better actor because you want to have a job. So why isn't it like that for teachers?
You think job insecurity is what makes me work hard?
Well, you have an incentive to work harder, but if there's
I
job
wanna
security,
be an actor. It's not an incentive. That's the thing. So you take this MBA style thinking, right? It's the problem with ed policy right now. There's this intrinsically paternalistic view of problems that are much more complex than that. It's like saying a teacher is going to get lazy when they have tenure. A teacher wants to teach. I mean, why else would you take a shitty salary and really long hours and do that job unless you really love to do it?
10% that are bad, though? 10% of teachers are bad.
where'd you get that number?
I don't know. 10% of people in any profession maybe should think of something else.
Well, okay, but I mean, maybe you're a shitty cameraman. I don't know.
Saying that to Matt Damon, who's standing right next to his mother, who's a teacher. But we are in Megaville. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be short, but I have this clip. So there was this Turning Point USA America Fest. It's sort of like a rally with lots of lights. First, there's a clip. Trump repeated widely debunked theory that vaccines cause autism.
And to be our next Secretary of Health and Human Services, I decided, look, something's going on here. When you look at like autism from 25 years ago and you look at it now, something's going on, and I nominated Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. Think of it. Think of this. 25 years ago, autism, 1 in 10,000 children. Today, it's 1 in 36 children. Is something wrong? I think so.
As to something wrong, I think he speaks weirdly. Whether he maybe got some or got none, I don't know. It sounds kind of like, well, speaking of people who might suffer from autism or are on a spectrum, unfortunately, and we're praying for all these people, including Elon Musk, who widely portrays himself as a president-elect and puts baby in the corner, right? Trump in the corner. Not calling Trump a baby, referring to a movie Dirty Dancing. So, so much so that Trump felt in need to address this. Take a look how he started.
And we will create the new Department of Government Efficiency headed by Elon Musk. And no, he's not taking the presidency. I like having smart people. You know, they're on a new kick. Russia, 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 Ukraine, 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 all the different hoaxes. And the new one is, President Trump has ceded the presidency to Elon Musk. No.
And see why he thinks why Trump thinks he is safe from Elon being a president.
No, he's not going to be president, that I can tell you. And I'm safe, you know why? He can't be. He wasn't born in this country.
Meanwhile, everybody was laughing, really laughing, of Musk crashing a dinner between Trump and Bezos. Bezos traveled to Mar-a-Lago to talk to Trump, about whatever, kiss the ring one more time. And Musk crashed that dinner. Take a look.
Quote, billionaire rivals Bezos and Musk dined with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, the Times reports. Musk was not initially expected to be part of the dinner, but joined as it was underway. Very sort of diplomatic, classy language for what it sounds like, according to the Times, was a crashing or unplanned addition.
But an hour into the
Can you imagine? Bezos sits with Musk, with Trump, and they have a dinner, and then Musk comes in, like, how dare you? You didn't tell me. You guys are dining without me. I'm the girlfriend. Oh, interesting. Now, as to Trump, continuing on that. So, last clip from that America Fest, Feast Fest. He also talked about advertising against the drug use. Take a look.
We spend a lot of money, but it'll be a very small amount of money relatively. We're going to advertise how bad drugs are for you, how bad they are. They ruin your look, they ruin your face, they ruin your skin, and ruin your teeth. If you want to have horrible teeth, take a lot of fentanyl. If you want to have skin that looks so terrible, take fentanyl. We're going to show what these drugs are doing to you. Nobody's done that before, and we're going to do it. And that is, it's going to be like running a political campaign, just like
Donald Trump Jr.? Just a question. So, Trump announced plans to launch anti-drug advertising campaign targeting the physical toll of substances like fentanyl, while reiterating his pledge to designate Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. Speaking at this Turning Point conference in Phoenix, highlighting the campaign's focus on showing the ruinous effect of drug use and on appearance, stating they ruin your look, they ruin your face, they ruin your skin, they ruin your teeth. He compared the initiative to a political campaign, adding that while it would require significant funding, it would be relatively inexpensive overall. The proposal draws comparisons to Nancy Reagan's 1980s Just Say No campaign, which aimed to deter drug use among youth. However, Trump did not provide concrete details about the program, and his transition team has declined to comment further. Can you tell? There are concepts of a plan. Anyway, as to Trump's nominees, let's get quickly through it. Trump announced Mauricio Claver-Caroni as his choice for special envoy to Latin America. The guy, a former official known for his staunch anti-communist stance, was previously dismissed from a high-profile position amid allegations of an affair with a subordinate. Despite the controversy, Trump has highlighted Claver-Caroni's expertise in Latin American affairs as key to his administration's regional policy goals. Also, Trump announced the appointment of Bo Hines as executive director of Presidential Council of Advisors for Digital Assets. Hines, who previously ran for Congress in North Carolina, will work under incoming crypto czar David Sachs, who is set to chair the council. The advisory body aims to shape the administration's policies on digital assets, emphasizing regulation, innovation, economic growth, and cryptocurrency sector. So NFTs is gonna blossom, and cryptocurrency will become the currency. Also, Trump announced plans to nominate billionaire investor Steven Feinberg as Deputy Secretary of Defense. Feinberg, co-founder and co-CEO of private equity firm Cerberus Capital Management LP, previously served on an intelligence advisory board during Trump's first term. If confirmed, Feinberg will work under Trump's pick for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, a former Fox News host. Hegseth's nomination has drawn scrutiny due to allegations of alcohol abuse and sexual misconduct, which he has denied. And Trump has also nominated Katie Miller. Can you imagine? Stephen Miller, who puts kids in cages, has a wife and kids. And so his wife, a veteran of his first administration, and now wife of incoming Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, he nominated her as one of the first members of the DOGE department. This informal advisory board, led by Musk and Ramaswamy, aims to cut government spending. Trump praised Miller on Truth Social, highlighting her loyalty and professional expertise. Also, Trump has appointed the man who made him millions and billions in the only profitable setting, which was The Apprentice. Logically, he appointed Mark Burnett, the man behind The Apprentice, The Survivor, Shark Tank, You know, the producer of reality shows. By the way, he's British born and he's British citizen. And Trump, nevertheless, appointed him to become a special envoy to United Kingdom. Burnett, 64, is also known for producing successful TV shows, and he previously served as chairman for MGM Worldwide Television Group. Trump highlighted Burnett's role in enhancing diplomatic relations between the US and the UK. Well, elect reality star, expect reality show. And finally, he appointed Tillman Fertitta, a billionaire, the owner of Houston Rockets, if you watch NBA, and chairman of Landry's, as U.S. ambassador to Italy. Fertitta, a prominent businessman who operates vast portfolio of restaurants, hotels, and casinos across the U.S., is expected to bring his extensive experience in hospitality industry to the diplomatic role. Now, during the debacle about the bill passing, not passing, something I want to draw your attention to. Representative Rosa DeLauro, the top Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, accused Republicans in Congress of protecting Elon Musk's investments in China by removing provisions that would restrict U.S. investments in the country. After all that debacle, in a letter, she suggested that Musk, Tesla's CEO, may have influenced the government's funding process to remove these provisions due to his significant investments in China and personal ties to Chinese Communist Party leadership. Musk's opposition to the original funding deal has raised questions about his motives. According to DeLauro, Tesla did not immediately comment on the matter. President-elect Trump had previously appointed Musk to co-lead the project aimed at reducing government costs. And this is a question that I raised, many times as to, he's not nominated nor appointed, Musk, right? Is he on our federal pay? I don't know. Probably he doesn't need the pay. But the Doge Department, why is this people who are not elected? Those are private individuals, private citizens. Why do they have an entrance to the Air Force to talk to them? I showed you videos. Why do they have? Why do they talk to congressmen and women? Why can't you and I just walk into Congress and start giving them suggestions? They are exactly on that level, aside from making money. By the way, Musk made half of his nowadays fortune after the election. He was around $250 billion. Now he's at around $500 billion just after the election. 100% profit for investing $277 million. Read the quote today. Hey, Yash, good morning. Vote for a clown, expect a circus. Yeah, but I updated it. Vote for reality star, expect reality show, with Mark Burnett at the helm in the UK. Now, as to TikTok, the question is, are they going to shut down? Are they going to sell their assets to U.S. owner by January 19th? It's looming. It's less than a month away at this point. TikTok made Trump popular. Believe it or not. So Trump is now signaling that he supports TikTok's continued operation in the U.S. He suggested on yesterday, that he supports allowing TikTok to continue operating in the United States, at least temporarily, citing the app's role in his campaign success. So what's good for him, it's good for everybody. Speaking at America's Fest, Phoenix, Arizona, Trump highlighted the billions of views his campaign garnered on the platform, calling it a record, and jokingly adding, maybe we got to keep this sucker around for a little while. Precious. Just precious. Full readout on that is in your newsletter. Then he threatened throughout the weekend to take Panama Canal, lying that Carter gave it away for $1. There was an agreement that was set to expire, which happened under Carter's administration. So anyway, in a post on Truth Social on Saturday, a series of posts, Trump accused Panama of charging excessive fees for the use of Panama Canal and stated that if Panama did not manage the canal in an acceptable manner, he would demand the U.S. ally to return control of the canal to the United States. Trump also raised concerns about the potential influence of China over the canal, warning that it should not be managed by Chinese. This post marks an unusual instance of U.S. leaders suggesting that a sovereign country could be pressured into relinquishing control of its territory. Plus, we're not done there yet. No, you probably heard about the Panama Canal. What you haven't heard, which happened overnight, because the man tweets. He doesn't sleep, he tweets. Donald Trump suggests taking ownership of Greenland, as he announced Ken Havery as his pick for U.S. ambassador to Denmark. Quote, for purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity, unquote, Trump wrote on his failing social media sites. So much to tweak tweeting. Yeah, indeed, Kelly. Yeah. So much to ending the wars, prohibiting third war. We're just going to take assets from people. Also, he has announced that he's planning to restore Mount McKinley name, revoking Denali. Trump announced on Sunday his intention to rename North America's tallest mountain, currently known as Denali, back to Mount McKinley, in honor of William McKinley, the 25th U.S. president who was assassinated in 1901. Speaking to supporters in Phoenix, Trump called McKinley a great president and said, we'll bring back the name because I think he deserves it. The mountain was officially named Mount McKinley in 1917 after the Ohio-born president, although McKinley never visited Alaska or the mountain itself. In 2015, former President Obama officially restored the mountain's name to Denali, the traditional Athabascan word meaning the high one, after years of advocacy from Alaska natives and state officials. Again, read out this in your newsletter. Now, remember those startups, Palantir, that is supported by or funded by Peter Thiel, who tried to infect Pentagon with drones, trying to convince the Pentagon and the Department of Defense altogether through Musk that F-35s and fighter jets and pilots are unnecessary. We just have to stick to drones. So there are several of such startups that try to do so. They figured out that alone, they don't have much pressure. So now they're uniting. Data analysts from Palantir Technologies and defense tech company Anduril Industries are reportedly in discussions to form a consortium of technology companies aimed at bidding for U.S. government defense contracts. According to Financial Times, the group could include major players like SpaceX, OpenAI, autonomous shipbuilder Saronic. Who doesn't want to have a ship without anybody in it? Let's just trust it. The cars are bumping into parked cars, but ships, hey. And artificial intelligence data company Scale AI. The consortium seeks to position itself as a new generation of defense contractors, leveraging innovative technologies to streamline how the U.S. government procures advanced defense and weapons capabilities. Quote, we are working together to provide a new generation of defense contractors, unquote, a person involved in the talks told the Financial Times. Let's check the comments. Sierra, good morning, Sierra says Biden has time to end the internal threat and madness. Indeed. With just one signature, he does have immunity. He is president. So, yeah. I have a feeling Trump is going to invade Panama Canal and Greenland. Yeah. Because remember last time he wanted to shoot some bombs to Mexico. Let's just invade them. Because he's not a dictator. He is a fan of dictators. Like I can be a fan of Taylor Swift. I can put her dress on. I can slap a wig on my head and all that kind of stuff. Put the boots and everything with red soles and stuff. But I will not be Taylor Swift. I can't sing like Taylor Swift. I can just mimic her. And that's what happens here. Hey, Putin is taking over stuff in Ukraine. I want to take over stuff too. Let's start with Panama Canal. This is next to Costa Rica. Like, what's Panama going to do? It's not going to defend itself. China there, and I understand China is planting its pause everywhere. But for that reason, President Biden went to Amazon rainforest to invest, not to allow China to invest there. Colombia, same story. That's why he was in Angola, same story. To prevent these developing countries and developing sites, or those who need help, from being outbidded by China. That's exactly what you do. Panama Canal? What are we talking about? All right, so we talked about this. Okay, now for a bit of decency, may I present to you a nice picture? Here's President Biden visiting kids over the weekend. Remember, there was a rumor, oh my God, Biden came back on the 20th of December. Something will happen. Nothing will happen. He was scheduled to go last week to Delaware for the 52nd anniversary of the tragic death of his wife and daughter. Then he was scheduled to come back, and with First Lady, he was visiting the clinic. And so his visit continued an 80-year annual tradition dating to Bess Truman of First Ladies bringing holiday cheer to children who are too ill to be at home on Christmas. President Biden joined his wife, Dr. Biden, in 2021, making the first visit by a sitting president. And then he continued to do so every single year. So the White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warned on yesterday, that Iran might reconsider its nuclear doctrine, potentially pursuing a nuclear weapon as the country faces mounting regional and domestic pressures. In an interview with CNN, Sullivan pointed to Iran's diminished regional influence following Israeli actions against Iranian allied forces, including Hamas and Hezbollah, and the collapse of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's regime. Additionally, he highlighted Israeli strikes on Iranian missile factories and air defenses, which have weakened Iran's conventional capabilities. Quote, "It's no wonder there are voices in Iran saying, hey, maybe we need to go for a nuclear weapon right now," unquote, Sullivan said. And so Iran's nuclear program is certainly in focus. Again, a complete readout is in your newsletter and on the podcast. It's a long one. And starting with 2015, where Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal during his first term, that agreement had provided sanctions relief in exchange for limits on Iran's nuclear activities. Trump did violate that. Well, he canceled this out. So that certainly allowed Iran to, to speed up the process of acquiring a nuclear weapon, and certainly dealing with Russia, helping Russia with their situation in Ukraine, has provided Iran with the needed intel even. So Prime Minister of Italy, Meloni, she warns on broader Russian threat to EU security beyond defense. So she emphasized on yesterday, that Russia poses a far-reaching threat to European Union security, extending beyond traditional defense concerns. In the remarks made during a meeting in Finland with the leaders of Italy, Sweden, Greece, as well as EU's foreign affairs chief, Meloni highlighted that Russia could exploit illegal immigration and other challenges to destabilize the EU. Quote, "We have to understand the threat is much wider than we imagine," unquote, Meloni said, pointing to multifaceted nature of security risks posed by Russia. She stressed that these threats will persist beyond the Ukraine conflict and that EU must be prepared for long-term challenges. So Meloni outlined how Russia's influence could extend into various domains and impact EU stability, including undermining public opinion, controlling critical raw materials, and instrumentalizing migration flows. Quote, "It's about our democracy. It's about influencing our public opinion. It's about what happens in Africa. It's about raw materials. And it's about the instrumentalization of migration," she said. She called on the EU to take a more proactive role in securing its borders and preventing Russia or any criminal organizations from manipulating migration flows. The concerns echo accusations from countries like Finland and Estonia, who have claimed that Russia has been allowing illegal migrants from Middle East and elsewhere to cross into EU unchecked. Moscow has denied these accusations. obviously. And why Finland is bothered? Because Finland shared a 1,340 kilometer border with Russia, describing it as existential matter for both Finland and other EU and NATO members. And if this border is violated, then we are at something. Also, yesterday I was watching PBS. It's the only thing I watch, if anything, on television, aside Netflix. Aside from Netflix, there was a show Firing Line, right? I understand it's hosted by the great daughter of Hoover, and it's conservative, right? It's a conservative show. I get it. But there was Peggy Noonan. She's a journalist. She wrote speeches for Reagan and whatnot, right? So this is the true red conservative domain. And I have two clips for you. Take aside that it's a conservative speaking. Just seek opinion from a journalist who was mostly, well, she's still writing a column and everything, but who was beginning her career in the world where journalism was journalism. And so she was asked to comment on the current state of media and what she would actually suggest the people in media to do. And she said, look, we don't need more conservative commentary because we have enough of it. We don't need more democratic commentary because we have enough of it. What we need is actual news. To this point, take a listen.
What advice do you have for the press heading into Donald Trump's second term?
People look at the news now, say at big broadcast news shows, and also at newspapers, and they think, oh, there should be more conservative commentary. That's not it. That's not my advice. There's enough conservative commentary. It's all over the place. There's enough liberal commentary. You know what I'd say to newspapers right now? Keep giving us information. Mm-hmm. We don't need your views, your attitude, your sneaky, snarky headlines. Newspapers and broadcast news, they've become lazy about reporting the news. Young reporters aged, say, 23 to 40 think that their job is thinking aloud about our culture and news things that happen in our ideology. They're not such good reporters. Become reporters again. Dig. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, put 6 people on a story that may take a year to report, but it's a life-changing story. So my advice for the news would be, why don't you take your energy and brilliance and find the news?
Yeah.
And my last clip from this Firing Line is where she was confronted as to what's going to happen with Hegseth, Pete Hegseth, right, leading Pentagon. And this is a conservative person trying to frame it as to don't do it. Please don't do it. Take a look.
The head of your Defense Department is going to be in the Oval Office when North Korea launches, and we're not quite sure of the warhead or the trajectory. This must be a person of depthful experience, depthful knowledge of history on a George C. Marshall, former defense secretary, Robert Gates, former defense secretary, Frank Carlucci level. Big, smart people. Pete Hegseth is a young man, has never worked in such an organization as defense. He's a culture warrior. That's good. The world needs culture warriors. He's a morning TV host. I'm glad. The world needs them too. Is that person right for that job? Again, I'm so glad our Republicans set up the Senate. Will sit down, ask him every question. I'm sure he'll have been speed reading Thucydides and we'll have quotes. Do you know what I mean? But you better be serious about this, senators. You better make sure he's the right one for this job. He doesn't have to be. And if you decide he is not, very good. Withstand the pressure, make your decision, make your vote. These are life and death questions for the country. They're not just, gee, Trump put up 6 appointments and they're the bad ones. He had 6 good ones, 6 bad ones. How many can I reject without getting in trouble? That's not the question. The question is, what will be safe for America?
And I quoted Todd. Good morning, Todd. Thank you for commenting. Again, she's Republican, so she's happy it's a Republican-led Congress, yada, yada. She was then asked, do you believe they will do it? Do you believe the Congress folk will do it? And she said, they better do it, because if not, that's the end of it. And that's a very conservative person talking. Good morning, good morning. All righty, so as to Georgia, the country, remember they became pro-Russian. They had this fabricated election. They have now, they're led by Georgia Dream, which is a pro-Russian, anti-EU party. And guess what they're still doing? Christmas or no, they're still protesting. Take a look. Cold or not, Christmas or not, they're protesting, which Russians don't do. So remember the oil tankers that broke in half, right? Those are from the Shadow Fleet. Those are repaired many, many years, decades, if you will. And they were broken by the sea. Well, it was a storm that lasted over 60 hours. Both of them broke in half, spilling 8,000 tons of oil. And so what Russians did, thousands of bags, they put the oil, but that was washing off the shore, the fuel oil, they put it in thousands of bags, right? Collected on the resort beach in Anapa. But what happened then? They left it at the beach. So those bags with fuel oil are washing back into the sea. So thousands of tons of fuel products were spilled by 3 tankers in Russia's Shadow Fleet in the Black Sea. They put it in the bags, and this is what happens to the bags overnight. Take a look.
Держитесь, начинается шторм.
Who puts fuel oil into bags, into trash bags on the beach and leaves it to go right into the sand? Now, U.S. officials said that North Korea, not Kremlin, first suggested sending North Korean troops to help Russia in the war against Ukraine. And their motivation was to get fight experience. They wanted to have folks to come back to North Korea with combat experience, well, not the experience that they actually gotten. As to Iran, Iran is in the midst of an energy crisis. So far so that schools and government offices have been closed and manufacturing has been brought to a near halt. No electricity, no money, honey. As to Ukraine, Prime Minister Shmyhal has announced that Ukraine will stop the transit of Russian gas to EU on January 1st at 7 a.m. local time. Now, Slovakia has said, oh, we're going to sue you, we're going to fight you, we're going to start a war with Ukraine because we need that gas. And so what their Prime Minister Fico did, he visited Putin. So Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico made an unannounced visit to Russian President Putin to discuss energy issues and the possibility of an early end to war in Ukraine. Fico became one of the 3rd EU leaders to meet with Putin since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The visit drew criticism from Czech officials, highlighting the EU's sanctions on Russia and its support for Ukraine. Tensions between Fico and Ukrainian President Zelensky have also escalated due to expiration of Russian gas transit agreement. Meanwhile, Ukraine reported continued Russian drone attacks and strikes on airports far from the front line. As to Syria, remember Bashar al-Assad got this asylum in Moscow, right? He was living in Four Seasons, right in a room next door to Tucker Carlson, who allegedly made an interview with him. Anyway, Tucker was there to interview Foreign Minister Lavrov, the one who never leaves, same as Putin, and always lies. But allegedly he tried and did interview Bashar al-Assad. We'll see if it's true. That's a rumor. Now, he got asylum. Bashar al-Assad's wife was born in the UK. She's very high up in the UK, very rich, prominent. And then became the queen of Syria, right? Queen. The dictator's wife, so to speak. So now in Moscow, she doesn't like living there. Plus, they want to protect their assets that are in the UK. So the wife of former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, Asma al-Assad, who is British national, has reportedly filed for divorce in Moscow and requested that Russian authorities allow her and her children to return to the UK for urgent medical treatment. Also, protecting assets in the UK is cool. Today, it was also added that she wouldn't mind also going to UAE. Graciously. Now, U.S. Senators Chris Van Hollen and Lindsey Graham introduced bipartisan legislation on Friday aimed at imposing sanctions on Turkey over its military actions in northern Syria. The Countering Turkish Aggression Act of 2024 seeks to deter further Turkish or Turkish-backed attacks on Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, that are backed by U.S. forces, which could lead to the resurgence of ISIS and pose a global security threat. The senators expressed hope that the threat of sanctions would push Turkey and Syrian groups toward a ceasefire and a demilitarized zone, while also advocating for diplomatic efforts to achieve a sustained peace. Hostilities have escalated to northern Syria following recent changes in leadership, including the ousting of Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad. I reported on Friday, it was in your newsletter, in your podcast, that Erdogan, the leader of Turkey, said that pretty much everyone will end up divesting their support from Kurdish, right, from the Kurds. And Kurds are very much supported by us. Why? Because they are in charge of keeping those 10,000 ISIS fighters in prison in Syria. So if you were to move them away, ISIS will gain foothold in Syria. So as to Taiwan, President Biden on Friday authorized $571.3 million defense support package for Taiwan, reinforcing Washington's commitment to helping the island defend itself against Chinese pressure. The White House announced the allocation, which includes defense articles, services, and military education and training, although specific details were not disclosed. This move comes amid rising tensions in Taiwan Strait, with China increasing military pressure on Taiwan. Last week, Taiwan went on high alert in response to China's largest naval deployment around the island in 3 decades, accompanied by extensive military activities in the East and South China Seas. Taiwan continues to reject China's claims of sovereignty over the island. The U.S. State Department also approved a potential sale to Taiwan of $265 million worth of military equipment, including command control and communications, and computer modernization systems, which Taiwan's defense ministry said would strengthen its defense capabilities. Additionally, the U.S. government authorized the sale of $30 million worth of parts for 76mm autocannon aimed at enhancing Taiwan's defense against China's gray zone warfare tactics. Taiwan's defense ministry expressed gratitude for U.S. support, describing it as a firm security guarantee, and reaffirmed the intention to continue strengthening security cooperation with the United States to ensure peace in the region. Of course, China has criticized all of it. China sharply criticized the United States military aid package to Taiwan. Beijing claims that the aid seriously violates the One China principle and breaches provisions of the joint communities between China and the U.S. In a statement, a Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson emphasized that Taiwan is a red line that must not be crossed, and China-U.S. relations, warning that China will take all necessary measures to protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity. Beijing has long considered Taiwan a democracy-governed island to be part of its territory, despite the government in Taipei firmly rejecting such claims. Also, South Korea, demonstrators supporting and opposing South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol held rival protests several hundred meters apart in Seoul on Saturday, a week after he was impeached over his short-lived declaration of martial law. So now you have those who back him up. He's already impeached. He's gone. facing conviction. But his supporters are, sort of not fighting, but demonstrating against those that are pro new leadership. Whew. Okay, as to Cuba, tens of thousands of Cubans protested in front of the U.S. Embassy in Havana on Friday, demanding an end to long-standing U.S. sanctions, which they argue have crippled the island's economy. Maybe lining up with the communists was crippling the economy. The march, led by Cuban leaders Raul Castro and President Miguel Diaz-Canel, featured chants of "Down with the blockade" and "We will never surrender." Protesters waved Cuban flags while voicing discontent with U.S. policies. Cuban officials have expressed frustration with the Biden's failure to reverse the harsher sanctions imposed by Trump during his first term, and have warned that conditions could worsen under Trump's anticipated return to office. They called Biden to lift off Cuba's designation as a state sponsor of terrorism, which restricts Cuba's access to international financial transactions. Protesters highlighted the daily struggles caused by power outages, inflation, and shortages, blaming U.S. sanctions for exacerbating the country's economic crisis. The demonstration marked the first protest of its kind in over a decade, signaling Cuba's increasingly confrontational stance ahead of Trump's potential second term. So, on this note, something for the soul. Remember, I have a picture though. Remember Cat Willow, our first cat of the nation? The first cat has been seen rambling and tumbling over White House, very interested in the trees. And so thank goodness for those guards that are standing ready to protect the Christmas trees and ornaments from the cat Willow, who sleeps on President Biden's head. But certainly the cat has been seen. Flotus, as you see here, posted her, I guess it's a her, right? On Instagram, depicting the tree that is still standing behind the cat. So on this note, it's a doozy, right? I promised you almost an hour. We got through. So as to coming forward, as for tomorrow, I will gather all the news. 5 p.m., you're going to get your newsletter and your podcast, okay? Newsletter will be migrating to the website. You can still sign up here at safehonest.substack.com. Everything will be migrating, so you're going to... Emails will look the same. It's pretty much going to be an email with my photo in front of Air Force, so you know it's me. And we'll say, like, welcome to the newsletter, and then click here to read. You click, you're going to get to the full newsletter. That's what will be updated either today or the next coming days. Still figuring out how to migrate those thousands of subscribers. Also, if you're a paid subscriber, you're going to get an email prompted to put your data on the website. It's secure. You do it once. I just never save your payment anywhere. So you will have to be doing it again. And on the podcast, please listen. The actual news podcast available everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, whatever you prefer to tune in or whatever you prefer to listen into or on, it's there. And it has all the latest news. 5 p.m. Eastern, you get your afternoon news in the podcast form. AM news, I see you here live on YouTube and X if you want to. And everything again is migrating to the website. So ultimately, you'll get an email where it says honestnetwork.com. And there you have your podcast, your newsletter, and your video broadcast there. So everything is in one spot. Okay. So as to news again, tomorrow morning, I believe everything stays the same. I will report on the news. As to 25th, Christmas Day, I don't think we're going to have enough news, or I want to bother you with news. So we'll see if we have coverage on the 25th. I don't think so, because the world will be celebrating, deservingly so, I hope. And then 26th, we continue with everything. So tomorrow, everything per usual. 25th, probably off. 26th, 7th, and whatnot per usual. Okay? Alrighty, let me check the comments before I let you go. Hey, Alexander, good morning. With all due respect, can you imagine how to protest in Russia where anybody is to be arrested for a single protest? Can you imagine a protest in North Korea? It's simply impossible. Indeed, but it's also, I agree, it's also in the DNA. It's in the DNA to hate and love the king and to obey. Have we ever seen protests in Russia? Not in the past 20 years, right? Under Putin. He was gaining prominence within those 20 years. But it's also, the strength is also in numbers, right? Georgian people protesting daily, and it's not like it's nonviolent. Iran, remember Iran protests. It wasn't nonviolent, but it also, the strength became in numbers. How do you throw off a king? Josh says, you're right, Alexander, it's better to live an apolitical life rather than ending up dead. Yes, but also it means sending your sons to the war, because ultimately this war will be expanding. By the way, if you have any relatives or friends in Belarus, State Department put an alert this morning telling all US citizens or residents, green card holders, to leave Belarus, because Belarus is expected to have mass detentions and expected to enter the war against Ukraine. This has been put officially by the State Department this morning. So if you know anybody in Belarus, please tell them. And just now, breaking news, House Ethics Panel draft report accuses Matt Gaetz of regularly paying for sex and using drugs. So the report has premiered. I started with saying that CNN got a leak. Now it premiered. So that's the breaking news for the time being. Anything else? Blinken and Mauritius. Okay, so all the rest I'll report in the newsletter and your podcast. Alexander says, come on, Olga, it wasn't possible to simply stay in Tverskaya Street. Khabarovsk protested several months and what? Useless in North Korea. Yeah, but how do you want to resolve Russia? How do you see this being resolved? Do you see Putin being thrown off or no? And by whom? That's the question. If not, status quo. Absolutely. If yes, how? That's the question. And I'm coming on. All right. Okay, first cat is so cute. Alrighty, guys. I'm done bothering you. Have a peaceful day. See you tomorrow morning for AM News, and then later on the podcast and in the newsletter. Alrighty, have a peaceful day. Thank you for being here.